Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 17th, and right now we are looking at the Himawari low-level water vapor loop. So you might ask, why am I showing you China and Japan and Taiwan, and you can't see Hawaii until you look way over here, and there's Aleutian Islands here. Well, this is our system here. This polar lobe is going to interact with some tropical and subtropical moisture here. You can already see a little bit of it get caught up into the westerlies here. But here comes our system here. It's going to move across western Alaska, Gulf of Alaska, and down into the Pacific Northwest. Confidence is high. We have a huge pattern change coming. We're going to be bringing some precipitation in here. Stark differences. Your entire wardrobe is going to change. You got to get your pants out, dust off your coats, all that good stuff, because it is on the way, folks. It's time to get excited. So here we go. We got the low-level clouds moving all the way in towards the Cascades here. This is just a marine push here. This is not the pattern change going on. We're still going to be a little bit above average as we go through the next few days and this week. Smoke's still going around. We don't have the precipitation yet to put out these fires, but that is going to change as we go through this weekend and through the following week coming up here. So you can see the valleys outlined by the low clouds. Kind of interesting there. Almost got up to Mount Rainier here. You can see the smoke pumping all the way into eastern British Columbia. We're going to be dealing with the smoke off and on this week, as well as a little bit of offshore flow is going to be coming across the area again, bringing that smoke back into the region. But we just got to hang on for a few more days. So just bide your time here. The change is coming. Look at Seattle yesterday, 88 degrees, 16 degrees. We broke that record high set back in 2018 by. The previous record was only 70 in 2002. So this was the second warmest October day ever at SeaTac, second to only October 1st, 1987's 89. You can see Portland, look at that, 86, another daily record high. Kind of interesting that Seattle actually got a little bit warmer than Portland yesterday. But again, Portland just continuing to just shatter records the entire month here for record high temperatures. Now, this is my home. You can see the diurnal cycle for the last 3 days. We're dealing with some unhealthy air quality, which marks about that 150 line there. But we're underneath that unhealthy air quality now, but we're still dealing with some degraded air across the Puget Sound. We haven't kicked that smoke out just fully yet. And check out this marine push drop, 86 to about 58 in just a couple hours there, 28-degree drop. Very intense drop when that marine moisture or the marine air kind of slid back in here last night. So taking a look here, you can see the degraded air quality around, but at least there's not that much unhealthy air across the region. You can see northeast of Abbotsford, there's some going on, but that's probably going to change as we go through next week. Sorry to bring that back up again, but that smoke is going to get introduced into western portions as we go through this week coming up here. Now look at the NAM 3KM showing the temperature drop off from yesterday to today, even over 20 degrees difference in some areas, but you can plainly see it here on this map, really through western Washington towards southern BC here. Very stark differences, but that is not the main pattern change coming up. Look out here and you can see this weak system, maybe a few sprinkles for the north tip of Vancouver Island, west shores of BC here. As that system moves by though, you can kind of see this offshore flow start to return here. We got that easterly wind going on. It's not that strong, but that's enough to push forest fire smoke back into the region since we do not have the precipitation yet to squelch those fires. Check out the offshore flow going on through Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Really starts to pick up again here, and might have to deal with a couple more nasty smoke days going up through Wednesday into Thursday, but then that system's going to start arriving and really come to the rescue here for the entire Pacific Northwest. Looking here, this is a GFS last night versus yesterday morning on the right. I want to show you some of the difficulties the GFS has been having with this system coming up here. So it's not doing too bad with this portion of it, the one that's coming through Friday night into Saturday morning. You can see the polar lobe kind of opening up over the Pacific Northwest. It's a little bit further east than the European's been showing. We'll take a look at that coming up. But then this system after, the European's been very consistent showing this system is coming too with windstorm potential. And the GFS is just these wild swings back and forth. I mean, it's showing ridging over us here as of yesterday morning. And then last night, you can see it's huge flip-flop. So you've got to look at that as a forecaster. If a model is not being consistent, you can't really take it as serious as other models that are much more consistent here. So just kind of showing you guys that the GFS having a little bit of a hard time here. Here's the German model hot off the presses this morning. Let's update this and make sure we got all the accurate information up to date here. And you can see the German doing a good job here, showing this trough really open up over the area through Saturday morning. And it's also showing the system the European is showing here as we go on in through the following week here. That would have some windstorm potential with it shown here as well. This is Monday afternoon the following week. But the active pattern is on its way, folks. Very high confidence. Now this is the European 18,000 feet. Look at the big ridge that caused these very warm temperatures over the Pacific Northwest, record highs for many areas yesterday. And as we put this into motion here, this is yesterday afternoons, by the way. You see that ridge kind of hanging on through the week here, kind of starts to flatten out there about by the time we get to Thursday morning, showing this pattern change coming, and then this really cold air just blasts down with this system on Friday. Probably some breezy winds across the area here. We'll continue to watch to make sure that doesn't sneak up on us there. And then as we go through, this is the system I've been watching here for windstorm potential as we go through the 23rd. When a polar lobe positions itself and kind of is progressive across the top, we can really cast a powerful gradient across the region here. This would produce a late breaking windstorm here. It would be in its developmental stage as it passed the Haida Gwaii area here and on into the western shoreline of BC, just north of Vancouver Island. Late breaking waves are bad news here for windstorms, because you've got a developing system really packing a punch as it moves north of Washington through southern BC. You can really get that nasty gradient. So we've kind of been watching that. Some of the ensemble members have been hinting at that potential. Again, that would be for Sunday on into Monday morning. Now looking at the deterministic run here, this is yesterday night's actually here. So we're just kind of watching. This is a different run. See if we've got that good agreement. Actually, let's bump this out to the European control so we can look a little further out. But you can see the trough opening up by Saturday morning across the region here. So we can plainly see Friday night and Saturday morning system coming down to impact us here in the Pacific Northwest. Now this is the European on the left, GFS on the right. The ensemble mean, the GFS hasn't been quite as bad, but as we go through here, you can see a little bit of differences here, showing the stronger trough on the European, a little bit weaker on the GFS here on the right, and then the second system coming through here. The GFS is just now starting to catch on to that system, hinting at it a little bit here, stronger on the European though. And then as we go through the future here, you can see that troughing still exists across the Gulf of Alaska. No big ridge is likely here through the end of October, as you can see on both models, kind of showing that there. Now taking a look at the European deterministic versus the GFS deterministic on the right here. So we're just kind of going through some model comparisons here. And these are the best. So this information is the best we understand it on both these models at this point. You can see the trough opening up. This is not an ensemble average or anything. You see the trough open up here on the European, a little bit stronger, a little bit further east in the GFS. It's really going to cool us down. European or GFS kind of picking up on that second system there. And you can see it there, boom, right there on the European, swings a third down across the region as another one skirts us on the GFS. But pretty good agreement there that this trough is going to be working across Pacific Northwest at least through towards the end of October anyway. Now looking at precipitation totals, what can we expect here? So if we put this into motion, you can see that weak system kind of sliding by, and we've got a few days to go here. We're going to be dry as we go through this week here across much of the Pacific Northwest, unless you're up in the west coast of British Columbia there. And going on in through Wednesday night, still nothing. But watch this. Go through Thursday afternoon to Friday, you can really see the precipitation just blast into the area all the way down to the Oregon Cascades, the California border, higher terrain of British Columbia, Idaho Panhandle. Look at the Cascades just getting blasted. Second system rolls in. Some values showing up towards 7 inches across the Cascades. This would just douse those fires. So cross your fingers that this big precipitation is coming. The only problem, though, is now you're starting to paint a picture where you're getting almost too much rain here. We're going to have burn scars out there, and hopefully this doesn't cause any mudslides and cause any of these localized flooding problems. But you can see the big precipitation totals, Oregon coast, Olympic Mountains, Vancouver Island, and even across the interior as well. A little bit of rain shadow activity maybe, but we'll work out those details as we get closer. Seattle, Tacoma, you can plainly see the pattern change as we go through Friday and through the following week. Still going to be above average, though, for a few days here this week. Vancouver International, same thing. Big pattern change showing up there on the GFS. This is Spokane. Look at this. Some of these highs not even getting up towards 50 degrees. Just a huge change coming up here, folks. It is on its way. Portland International, some warm days this week. And again, the pattern change in the extended. You guys get the hint here. Here's Klamath Falls. You can see some temperatures not even getting up towards 50. So really, this is going to affect all the way down through southern Oregon. Much needed rainfall across Pacific Northwest. You can see Portland, the latest European there, did do the uptick here for precipitation here. And you can see by the time we get to the October 26th timeframe, it's calling for over 3 inches at Portland International Airport here. So very impressive systems coming up here. Seattle, Tacoma, you can see it upticked also by the time we get towards the night, Friday night into Saturday. Look, it's calling for an inch of precipitation and up towards 3 inches here by the time you get towards the 26th as well. Here's Stevens Pass. Look at some of these totals out here as you get towards the 26th. Up over 5 inches here on this run. You can see a pretty strong signal there too, showing up in every single run. This very beneficial rain that's going to be coming. Hopefully it doesn't fall too fast though, so it doesn't cause mudslide and some flooding concerns here across the burn areas. But we really need to put out the fires first. Mount Baker ski area. Here's the European. Look at this. Some of the totals here. This North Cascades are going to get blasted by snowfall here. Very early season. Very impressive snowfall here for some of the Cascades. Look at this, calling up over 60 towards 70 inches of snowfall on the most recent European. You can see the upward trend in the models here as we've gone through October 13th to the current time frame now. Look at Snoqualmie Pass is not going to get out of this also. Here's the European. Let's make this a little bit more visible here. Oh, sorry about that. There goes Snoqualmie Pass, even calling for up to 30 inches here at Snoqualmie Pass. So maybe a couple feet of snow by the time we get to the end of October here, according to the European run here. Now taking a look here, this is Mount Hood, all the way down into Oregon. Some impressive snowfalls down there too. Look at that, calling up towards 30 inches. Again, you can see the trend. We're just now getting a look at this system rolling down here. So I wouldn't start counting on 2 feet of snow falling across the ski areas here, but you know, there's definite potential for some snowfall in the mountains. Here's Siskiyou, downgraded the amounts a little bit, but sped up the actual amount of snowfall falling a little bit earlier here. But you can see some cold air is arriving all the way down towards the California border there. Siskiyou Summit, uptick there in actual precipitation values here are very beneficial. That would be down there. This is the GFS, kind of been pretty wild with some of its runs here too, and you can see the huge amounts it's showing for the Mount Baker ski area. Just thought I'd show you the GFS. Now, this is probably the last time we'll look at this Pacific North American oscillation here. This is the positive, the ridging over our area, the warm temperatures, and you see the huge pattern change that is on its way starting this weekend on in through next week. So get ready, folks. It is coming. You can see the European deterministic, same thing. GFS is on board as well. So here we're taking a look at Friday night system. You can see some blustery solutions showing up here in the European up into the 40s. That would cause some nuisance power outages, especially early in the season. But most of the members are upper 20s into the low 30s. Probably much more realistic with this first system coming in here. However, if we look out a little bit further, you can see this time period between the 23rd and 24th. Some of these windstorms have been coming in quite strong here on the ensemble means. And this is the low confidence forecast. This would be a late breaking storm right off the coast of southern British Columbia that would move into British Columbia and could cast a strong gradient. It's a very favorable scenario for a strong windstorm, but it's very low confidence at the same time. If we back up even a little bit more to yesterday morning's run, you can see some really huge windstorms kind of intermixed here in the ensemble runs. One is over 70. This one is over 80 miles per hour. These are once in a generation type storms that would dive down through southern BC. But again, this is 6 days out. This is a low confidence forecast, purely fantasy at this point. But there is that potential for a windstorm during this period. We're going to continue to watch this very closely. I'm kind of interested to see if the European shows or the GFS shows it and starts to latch onto what the European is showing. The icon, the Germany model, has been showing something similar here too, with that polar lobe being very progressive just north of Washington State here. It's worth watching at this point here, but really nothing more for now. It's not worth getting excited about just yet. It is still fantasy. It's just something fun to look at right now. Now, looking at the drought monitor, you can see we've still got moderate across the region. A lot of this is going to get completely wiped out here in the next week or so, and I'm hoping we can really put a dent in this extreme and dramatic drought we've got going here across portions of eastern Oregon and southern Oregon there. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, big signal for below here, October 22nd to 26th. Big signal for above average precip here, same time frame. And this was looking 3 to 4 weeks out, late October through early November. And November is our rainiest month. So to have an above average signal here for portions of the Pacific Northwest is pretty impressive. Maybe we'll continue that active weather on in through early November here. And you can see an interesting signal here along the immediate west coast here. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into this yet too much, so I'm not sure exactly why that exists there for now. But anyway, it's looking way far out there. No need to get concerned. An experimental product here, risk of high winds, October 22nd to 28th. They've actually picked up on what I've been watching for a few days now for that windstorm potential, but they probably could have extended this inwards across mainly areas Portland north. And that, of course, would include British Columbia as well. But I think that the track of this storm is definitely favorable for high winds inland if it does materialize. So we'll just continue to watch that for now. This is risk of heavy precipitation, another experimental product, but it does show west portions all the way down towards the California border getting some very nice precipitation amounts as we go through the end of October. Now we've got a new La Nina forecast here. This is looking all the way back to 1950. You can see the ebb and flow of La Nina versus El Nino here. And that's why we're pretty confident we're going to move back towards El Nino conditions here over the next year or two. But now let's take a look here. The percentages show that we should be around 60% here for still being in La Nina through February before neutral takes over in March and we start to really move back into neutral territory. And look at this. By the time we get to May and June, we're actually El Nino is favored over La Nina here. It's been a while since we've seen that, since we're going into our third La Nina in a row here. Kind of an interesting thing there. You can see here the temperatures across the equatorial Pacific are really supposed to start climbing out by the time we get to January, but still should remain La Nina through February and right on the cusp there as we go through March. So anyway, this is the system coming across Asia here, coming off the coastline here. It's going to intermix with that tropical moisture and is looking pretty likely like we're going to have a huge pattern change across Pacific Northwest. It's going to be quite wild, a very big shock to the system after the very warm temperatures we have been getting, especially for places like Portland, which has just been shattering daily record highs nonstop here for the first part of October. You're going to drop down into the low 50s for some highs here as we go through the second half of October. And this precipitation, it's going to be very interesting to see how quickly we can put out these fires. And hopefully we get this precipitation so none of these fires linger on into early November or anything like that. So anyway, yeah, we'll do this again tomorrow. We'll continue to watch these models for trends and try to see if there is that windstorm potential. How much precipitation are we going to get? What kind of snow are we going to get in the mountains? It's a very exciting time as this transition trains. It's going to be quite dramatic here as we go through this week and into next week. So yeah, get ready, get your clothes out, dust them off, and pattern change is coming, folks. And we will do this again tomorrow. I'm very excited to see what kind of changes or what kind of consistency we see in the models as we go through tonight and on in through tomorrow morning. This pattern change looks very likely. So anyway, click like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.